Let's go. Getting ready, about to go live. You know we always have a good time, so count it down, make some noise. Chat is open. If you're here, let us know. Start the cheering. Let's have fun and start connecting. You worry soon you'll be forgetting, 'cause you are here with us now. We are all friends. Sit back and relax, we can begin. Ready or not, here we go. We're all here, so let's start the show. This is the place to be, right here with you and me. Let's meet somebody new. Come and be inspired. The only thing required is to learn and have fun too. Experiment with us, and you we can trust to live that streaming life. There's no need to be scared as long as you're prepared. Start the stream and feel alive. Online streaming is a journey. With every step we're always learning. So come with us, let's support each other. We can do everything all together. Ready or not, here we go. We're all here, so let's start the show. This is the place to be, right here with you and me. Let's meet somebody new. Come and be inspired. The only thing required is to learn and have fun too. Experiment with us, and you we can trust to live that streaming life. There's no need to be scared as long as you're prepared. Start the stream and feel alive. Your adventure is starting. Nothing compares to streaming. This is the place to be, right here with you and me. Let's meet somebody new. Come and be inspired. The only thing required is to learn and have fun too. Experiment with us, and you we can trust to live that streaming life. There's no need to be scared as long as you're prepared. Start the stream and feel alive.
Welcome, everyone. So happy to see you here. And Tatiana was the first one, and she said, "Get it, guys." And we danced like crazy. I mean, my guest did dance like crazy, and I went along. Hi, Roy. And my girlfriend is here. So we really need to work on a profile picture and a better name here. Yeah. And Keith is here. Hello. And Janet is here. Hoping I'm not forgetting someone. Yeah, that's the one I caught. So let's start this show. When you start content creation, it's usually pretty chaotic. Everything is new and you need to learn a tremendous amount of skills. But to make it sustainable, eventually you will need to get organized and efficient. My guest today is Colter Reid. He's a productivity enthusiast who decided to teach what he learned to others. Colter has a blog and a YouTube channel, and his mission is to help people get their day-to-day responsibilities out of the way so they can spend less time chasing the dream and more time living the dream. Did I get that right, Colter?
Absolutely, Marcus. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Thank you for coming here. And yeah, let's jump right in. So, productivity is your big mission in life, and
Yep.
and why is it important to you in productivity?
Oh, this is one of those weird questions that comes up. Why is productivity important to you? Do you like doing stuff? Sure, I like doing stuff. I like not doing stuff too, and I think that's part of why I like studying productivity. Is how do I do the things that I need to do and get those done and out of the way so I can spend more time doing the things that I want to do. Think back to when you were a kid. How often did your parents have to get on you to clean your room, or to take out the trash, or to we've got to vacuum the house. You need to vacuum upstairs. Okay, when are you going to do that? And you don't want to do it, and so you put it off. And they're just constantly reminding you you've got to do it. You know that you've got to do it. It's still there in the back of your mind. You haven't forgotten about it, but you're trying to avoid it. And whatever you come up with instead, you can't enjoy it because you have this have to do just looming over you that you have to deal with at some point. So why not just face it, get it done, and move on?
Yeah.
When I was
okay.
Good.
Yeah, that's a sensible thing to do, but I think it's quite difficult oftentimes. But yeah, what are you?
Oh yeah, and my kids are making this, are going through this same growth process that I went through.
Yeah.
We're trying to help them through it, help them to see the benefits. Like, you can spend this much time getting your room done and then move on to other things you want to do, or you can spend this much time and then have time for what you want to do. You can get it done with this much stress and arguing and reminders, or you can get it done with this much stress and arguing and reminders. It's kind of your choice.
Yeah, when I hear that, I kind of feel like I never grew up to be the responsible adult.
There is part of me that feels like I'm still a 14-year-old kid inside.
Okay.
I've just been faking it ever since.
Yeah, as long as it works. Yeah,
Yep.
but your motivation to get into productivity, was that because of a pain point you had with it? So.
It's always been something that I've loved and just enjoyed. The earliest relevant memory I can think of is when I was 10 or 11 years old. My father was very busy. He had a full-time job, and then he also was very active volunteering at church. And I kept wanting to play with him. And he would tell me, like, not now, this isn't a good time, come back. Well, I'd come back later. It's later, Dad, now. And he finally got out his Franklin planner, and he turned to Saturday and he said, okay, here, this is what we're going to do. Now's not a good time. There's things I need to get done. But we blocked in time on Saturday morning that we were going to throw a football around. And I was thrilled because, this was Dad's big book of important things. Everything he needed to do, everything he had to remember as an adult went into this book. And so now I was in there. I felt big and important. Like, ooh, I'm special. And Saturday came, and yep, sure as nothing, or sure as No, that's not right. Sure as nothing. Sure as anything. Yeah, we tossed the football around, and it was fun. And it's like, okay, I knew at that point that, yeah, Dad wasn't just ignoring me. But, oh yeah, he has other things he needs to do, rather than just play with me. I'm the kid. I'm the lucky one that has a very unstructured schedule. He has more structure that he has to deal with. So, okay. By the time that I got into junior high school, 7th grade here in the U.S., or in Rock Springs, Wyoming, where I was growing up, by the time I got into junior high school, I was thrilled to receive my very own Franklin planner at the beginning of the school year. I was probably the only kid in the school that had a Franklin planner. Most kids, I don't think, even wrote down anything that they needed to do in anything. And I had a Franklin planner. And it was a rite of passage for me and my sisters. But when we started junior high school, we got our own planner. And once a week, we would sit down as a family and we would plan out the week ahead, and who needed to be where, when, what did we need to get done. And we all brought our planners to the table. I remember my mom used to call it her brain, her external brain, her accessory brain. Because it was the only way that she could keep track of everything that we had going on. And it's just something that's stuck with me, junior high, high school, college, and then, ever since. It's been something that I have been able to see helps me to reduce the stress of remembering everything that I need to do, not worry about, have I forgotten something that I need to do, and then make sure that I'm planning time for the people who are important in my life, the fun activities that I want to do, and just make sure that it'll all fit. And I've got time for the things that I want to have time for.
Fantastic, yeah. And so you really grew up with the concept of, we need to plan, and that helped you then later in life.
Yeah, it's something that's stuck with me. And there have been times where I thought, okay, do I really need to do this? Is this just a whole bunch of busy work? What if I just don't worry about it? Let's just set the planner aside this week and just wing it. Let's live life. Don't be so structured. Just be spontaneous. Live in the moment. And I can't do it. I start getting nervous. Like, hey, what am I forgetting? I should be doing something. What do I need to do? And then sooner or later, you remember what you were forgetting. And now you've got to scramble to catch up with it.
Yeah. And I think you can still live in the moment while being organized. It's not like you have every minute of the day planned.
Yeah. This was something that my one of my college roommates and I would discuss a lot. We were roommates in college, and then we were roommates again after college. And he didn't like planning his time out because it felt that it prevented him from being spontaneous. You can't plan when, friends are going to stop by and say, hey, do you want to hang out? You want to go see a movie? And so he didn't plan so that he could be spontaneous like that. I see it as planning makes sure that you can be spontaneous like that,
sure,
but you're still fulfilling your responsibilities. Because like it or not, no matter how much kicking and screaming you are, you're an adult now. There's things you need to do.
Yeah.
And so if you plan, then how much time you have. Hey, I'd love to go out, see, dinner movie sounds great. I don't have time for dinner movie, but tell you what, I'll meet you at the theater at 8:00. We'll do the show. Sound good?
Yeah.
Or you say, yep, that is better than anything I had planned. So, vacuuming can wait. I'll do the vacuuming tomorrow. Let's go.
Okay. Replan the vacuuming. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we need to say hi here to Amy, because I think that's the first time she made it live in here. And so you
Welcome.
Get confetti. And Pierre Kelly, first time live in here. Hi. And we have Adam here. He already is in the details here. Have you tried Obsidian app?
I have not. I haven't heard of Obsidian app. I'm going to take a note here, and I'm going to look that up afterwards. I have my planner right here on my desk next to me. I'm going to write it down. Obsidian app.
So, new things always. Yeah. And Amy saying, I feel these worries about planning versus spontaneity. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
a
you can't
common.
enjoy yourself when you're spontaneous, can you? When you're worrying about what am I forgetting?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Tatiana is saying, when we do group projects in my college courses, I always talk with my students about different work styles, pre-planner versus procrastination. Okay, I'm the
Oh,
procrastinator. Yeah.
yeah. It's a seductive philosophy. It is. And the pernicious thing about it is that sometimes procrastination works.
Yeah.
Sometimes somebody else picks up the slack and takes care of it, and okay, you lose a little bit of cred, you damage that relationship a little bit. Maybe you care, maybe you don't. You should. But sometimes, yeah, the problem itself just goes away. Like there's a meeting on Friday that you've got to give a presentation for, and you know you should be preparing for it. It's Tuesday. Oh, I should be preparing for this. Wednesday. Oh, I should be preparing for this. Thursday. Oh man, I really need to get on that, but there's a new episode of Picard on tonight. I'll wait. And then, oh, what do you know? There was, the boss got sick and the meeting was canceled. It's pushed back till next week. So,
You
look,
won.
no meeting.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Procrastination for the win. Yes.
Okay.
So that's the problem. Is it does work sometimes, which is why we develop it as a go-to strategy. But
Yeah. So I figured out a big reason why I procrastinate a lot is, and it took me quite a while to figure that out, is I am a perfectionist, and procrastination is my antidote to that, because now I have to get it done, and I get efficient with it.
So do you feel that you do better work when you put it off to the last minute like that?
I've not necessarily better, but much more efficient. So yeah,
yeah, you
and
can
still
get
in okay quality. So, but because if I have a lot of time to do it, I lose a lot of time overthinking things, and yeah.
Yeah, it helps you focus, certainly. Tasks will expand to fulfill whatever time you give them.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
if you give the task just a little bit of time, okay, it takes a little bit of time, then you say, okay, nope, I've spent half an hour on this, whatever it is, done, I'm moving on to the next thing.
Okay, so and there I hear, but I hear a solution in what you're saying is giving the task a little bit of time. So I do that with the deadline, but I could also do that with planning and saying, okay, in half an hour, this has to be done.
Yeah, you can give it half an hour a week in advance and still be done with it, or you can give it half an hour the night before. The difference is how many options do you have? If you get 5 minutes into it and you think, oh, you know what would be awesome is if I did this. And a week before, you might have the option and flexibility that you can do that. But the night before, your options are limited. And it could be a good or bad thing. Like I said, if you just need to get in, focus, and get something done, then all right, it is a strategy. But if you want to leave yourself the freedom to be a little more creative and dynamic, well, work a little bit further in advance so that you have that flexibility.
Yeah, and sometimes it really doesn't work out then if it's been procrastinated for too long, and then the stress goes up. But yeah, let's get a bit more into your journey with content creation, and after that we will try to give practical tips, not only for me but in general for content creators. But yeah, at some point you thought, okay, now I figured so many things out, I can teach that to others. How did that work?
So Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you're not familiar with that, is basically live, love, learn, and leave a legacy. And what that breaks down to is, you need, the first thing you worry about is survival and making sure that you can stay alive. Once you know that you're going to live, then you want to feel connected to other people. You want to love and be loved. And then you start seeking to grow and learn and develop yourself. And then you want to leave a legacy, which is basically you go from self-activation to self-transcendency, and you start wanting to share the same richness and quality of life that you have with others. And so about 10 or 11 years ago, I just realized, I'm at the point where I've got, these basic needs taken care of. I'm not worried about where my next meal is coming from. I'm happily married. My wife is awesome. I'm learning all of these amazing things. And the more I learn, the more I want to turn around and share. It's just the way that I'm wired. Part of it is that, learn it, do it, teach it, model of reinforcing your own learning. And part of it is just, I like sharing. I learned something. I want to figure it out. Well, it doesn't take anything away from my success if I turn around and help you achieve the same success. And so I like sharing these things. And I just started feeling this itch that I had to scratch. And 10 years ago, this month, I think, I launched a blog, cultread.com. And I'm just going to start putting blog posts out there. Just what's on my mind, the things that I wish I would have figured out sooner. Initially I was just writing for, me at half my age, me back in college still. What do I wish I would have known then? What have I figured out in the years since that, if I could, give a sports almanac, take the DeLorean, give myself a sports almanac back when I was younger, how could my life be different now? So, just kind of writing those things down. And, started blogging, put out new content every week. And 2 or 3 years ago, I started thinking, the people who have spoken into my life with the most forcefulness, the most impact, are people that I have heard their voice. Now, maybe this is because, they were a teacher, they were somebody that I interacted with face to face in person. Maybe it's an author or a public speaker that I've heard in person or in talk tapes, audiobooks. And so maybe there's a way that I can level up my connection with people so I can have a greater impact, connect with them and more effectively share the things that I'm trying to share. And so I thought about different ways I could do that. And rather than doing like the podcast route, I thought, I'll just skip audio only. I'll go straight to video. Start a YouTube channel. Why not? Let's figure out how video works. And so for the last 2 years, I've been figuring that out. Gotten off to a couple of false starts, getting things going because there's a lot to learn. Doing a 5-minute video there's a lot more to it than doing a 500-word blog post. But I got to the point, over 8 years, the 10 years since that I can sit down, I can write a 500-word blog post, no problem. I know what that process looks like. Still young in the video journey.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, but someone could do the math on that maybe. For 10 years, you put out a blog post every week. So that's quite a few. Yeah. So.
And there were a couple of weeks ago, I had the honor of being invited to guest lecture for a university class. And, kind of thought about, talked with the instructor a little bit to figure out what she was looking for and thought, okay, great, got it. This is how to approach it. And created an outline. And I realized that, this is the easiest thing to write because I want to talk about the 10-10-10 model for just kind of putting problems in perspective and then realizing they're not as big as you think they are and move on to the next thing. I could just go to my blog and pull up the article where I talked about 10-10-10 and here are some very well organized thoughts on 10-10-10. I can just copy and paste and I've already sorted that thinking out. And so now I can leverage that by repurposing it for, for this presentation.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that presentation is also on your YouTube channel. So and it's really, really helpful. And that's at Colter Read. And Roy is saying Colter's newsletter and his shorts have fit together so well and reiterate what focus of his newsletter. Great stuff. Yeah.
Thank you, Roy.
Yeah, but I recognize that too, because in order to get to your email address to ask you to be a guest, you said, yeah, sure, I can have the email address, but maybe first subscribe to the newsletter. And so I'm in there now. But, that's a
Welcome.
good, clever move. And yeah, so you produce the blog post and then you make a short that goes along with that. That's,
Yeah,
nice.
or do it the other,
Okay.
or maybe do it the other direction. Maybe start doing video first and then let it flow into a blog post from there. I've started doing that a couple times. I have this back catalog of hundreds of blog posts that are idea fodder for doing videos, because like I said, I've already distilled a lot of my thinking on it. So yeah, let's grab that, turn it into a video script, and now let's do the video on that.
Absolutely, yeah. So you have a huge advantage, and I guess in general you have a huge advantage with your topic, because I think many people have a big pain point, and you figured a lot of that stuff out, and so
figured a lot of things out. Not everything. There's still a lot I'm still learning.
No one
figuring
has
out how to do,
everything
but
figured out, of course, yeah. But
Yeah.
do you get reactions from people who say, "Oh, you just helped me with something"?
I do, and it's wonderful when people reach out and thank me for for the stuff that I've written, because I have helped them out.
Yeah.
One of the just looking at the traffic on the blog, I've noticed previously that there have been a couple of times where I have been suggested reading for various college classes, because I'll suddenly see a spike in traffic
Great.
from some college campus someplace.
Yeah, great.
And it's very rewarding.
Yeah.
To see that here are people coming from an academic environment, and whoever's teaching feels that my article where I'm talking about whatever is the best way to present it to their class. And so, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't always get that sort of feedback. There's a lot of work that we do that really is great, and it's some of the we create some of the best content in the world. We just have no way of getting that feedback most of the time, and so we stumble along unsure of ourselves, when really we should be going forward with all the confidence of a 3-year-old in Batman underwear.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think most people will not send feedback. So if you get one person with, "Hey, that was so helpful, thank you so much," then you have probably at least 100 that think the same way. And,
Absolutely.
And a few weeks back, I had Shelley Saves the Day here as a guest, and she had a fantastic tip. She collects positive comments on her videos and has a folder just with all the nice things people said. And so
nice.
If you have a bad day or struggle with, why I'm doing that, just go back to that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and on your website, you have so much content there that you even put together some sections with start here and some tips for that. And
I'm just trying to organize it a little bit so that if you're just coming across me for this time, I'm like, well, what are you struggling with? Okay, let's look over here first.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just those little things. I remember I found there about email signatures, and then how it is really not a good idea to let the phrase "sent from my iPhone" stand there, and now I always delete that. And someday I will probably figure out where to default turn that out by default. But for now I delete it. Yeah. So then the blog thing you have absolutely down with that many years, and now with video. What were your biggest struggles and some wins?
Oh, the biggest struggle is just the time to do it, because I realized after I discussed this with a couple people that I can do a 500, 600, 800 word blog post, in an hour. I mean, I've been thinking about it for a few days, letting the idea ruminate, but then I can sit down, write it out. I've got that process down, and then the whole publishing process, with, getting a photo to go with it and all that, all the process behind it. I know exactly how long that takes. It's like an hour, maybe two. And it's very, it's a known quantity. I know what I'm doing there. But with video, it's so different. And I've been watching YouTube ever since it came out, and I know who I like on there. I know what resonates with me. But then I'm looking at what they do, and I'm like, wow, there's so much there that they're doing. I need to do all of these things if I'm going to do anything. And it's that perfectionism mindset that I can't do anything unless it's going to be perfect. And you don't get to be perfect without going through the process. Because if you look back at these stars that you look up to, Mr. Beast had very humble beginnings. Mr. Who's the Boss, Marquez, they all had. You go back and look at their early stuff. It's very different than what they're putting out now. My son actually a couple of weeks ago went through and dug down to Mark Rober's earliest videos, and I was watching some of these, and I'm like, okay, this is a lot more approachable than these what he's doing now. Highlighting how people are changing the world and making these record-setting elephant toothpaste explosions. That I'm not at that level yet, but this is where he started. Okay, I can relate to that a little bit more. So get started. You will get better, but that takes time. That takes time.
Yeah, and especially with video, there is so many things you have to learn all at once, more or less.
Oh, yeah.
And if you wait till you think that is it, then you will probably never start. Absolutely.
No, you won't.
Yeah. Amy also says yes, having to just start into small actionable improvements. Absolutely. And so now let's get to the meat of it. How can we? Most of us work a day job, and then we try to create content on the side, and that can get overwhelming quickly. So, what should we do?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. One of the things to keep in mind there is just boundaries, and this is a two-way street. Your employer is paying you to do a certain job, and they have expectations of how much of their time or how much of your time they're going to get, and you have to fulfill that. You have to honor that commitment. But then you have, and you've also made a commitment to, your family. I'm married. We have kids. They need some of my time too, and they need some of the best of me. I don't want to focus on other things and give these other areas of my life all of the best of me, and then just give them the rest of me that's left over. I want to make sure that they're getting a good experience with me too. And then I also need to figure out how to fit in time to be a content creator. And so one of the things I found effective is to just step back, take a look at the week, and figure out in kind of broad strokes that might fluctuate from week to week a little bit. But okay, when does work get me? That's kind of the first thing that has to go. And then when is my family going to get me? And I try to treat that as sacred time. It's something that I'm not going to infringe on. It doesn't always work out that way. Things come up, either from work or because I'm trying to meet my own self-imposed deadline. Things happen, but things happen with them too. That they've got a dentist appointment. Okay, well that's an hour or two that just free up that I can do something else because I'm not taking them to the dentist. And you also don't want to make, and I mentioned this was a two-way street. You don't want work bleeding over into the rest of your life and taking up all of your time, but you also need to make sure that the stuff you're trying to do on the side isn't bleeding over and taking time away from your employer. And so you just need to figure out, what's your budget for working on things. I know I have been trying to. Later this afternoon, I'm going to be working on editing a longer video, not a short, but a longer video that actually takes more time to edit and record B-roll for. I wanted to get this out a couple of weeks ago, but I just haven't had the time to do it. I've been putting out a short each week. I'm still trying to make that, personally set goal of getting out one piece of content each week, but I've had to scale it back many weeks that, okay, I don't have time to do this much work. I can do this much work this week. And so that's something else that you can do, is just realize that, yes, you may have, dreams and ambitions of putting in 20 hours a week on your hobby, your passion project. But then when you stop and actually look at it, do you have enough time for your day job, for your family, for self-care, for getting the sleep that you need? Do you have time to fit in, 20 hours like that? Or do you have to figure out let's do 10? What can you do with an hour a day?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just figure out, figure out how to get something that is sustainable, even if it's small. Yeah. Get it installed, and then figure out how to grow that.
Absolutely, yeah, that sounds very reasonable. But I think, yeah, it almost is sounds like, if I subtract all that from the availability, is there something that still goes in there? Yeah.
Yeah. And when you find out that everything doesn't fit, okay, well, what do you want to take out so you can make room for it?
Okay, so boundaries, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think also if you start with something new, you're much less efficient. So maybe you don't need to have it sustainable right out of the gate. You can maybe be a little bit irresponsible with, okay, I need to ramp it up. But then if you want to keep doing it, you need to be sustainable.
Yeah. And when you're first doing something, you're going to find yourself doing a lot of the same things over and over and over again. Like, I did this last week. I've been doing this every week for the last 7 weeks. Okay, those are the things that then you start looking at and say, okay, how do I optimize this? How do I make this more efficient? Don't try to optimize things before you've even gotten started, because at that point, you don't know what to optimize for. You can be arranging deck chairs on the Titanic if you're not careful. But do it. Go through the process a number of times. Take notes. As you're noticing things like, I've done this before. This feels very familiar. Even just taking notes, like as you're figuring out how to do something, take notes for your future self in case you do have to do the same thing next week. Maybe not the first time you do it, but like, I've done this before. I've done this 3 times. Okay, where was that menu item? How did I do this? What was the technique? For getting that J cut and editing the boundaries of where that transition happens. Start leaving yourself notes. Your future self will appreciate it. Your future self likes it when your past self has left you notes.
Yeah, and then we should respect our future self maybe a bit more.
Yeah, set your future self up for success.
Yeah.
And when you get to the point where you can start outsourcing things to a VA, they're going to need those notes, because you're establishing a process of how you do, Marcus Inc. This is how Marcus Inc. operates. And so now you're bringing somebody else, you're bringing a VA on to assist you in making Marcus Inc. run smoothly. You're going to want those notes at that point too.
Yeah. Yeah, but I took away that really important point. Don't try to optimize it until you really started doing it. It's like with the same with don't buy all the tech before you produce something, and it goes in the same thing. The one side you don't even know how you could optimize it, and then maybe you invest money and time in something and you don't even need it.
Yeah, and it becomes just fancy procrastination. you're afraid of getting started
Yeah.
on it, and it's like, oh, I need more time to prepare and make sure that I've got all the gear and I know what the process is going to be for things you're not going to be doing for months or years. Let those answers sort. You'll sort those answers out. Don't worry about it. Right now, what is the simplest action that you need to take to move forward on producing content?
Yeah. And that's the trap I always fall in when I start to think more about productivity. Is I try to perfect the methods, and then I install a software and I figure out how to put everything in there, and of course then it fails, and then I do nothing. So just go with small steps, like with everything.
Yeah. Just get started. Make it simple. Ask yourself, what if this could be easy? What's the easiest way for me to move forward?
What if this could be easy? Oh yeah, that's gold. I need to write that down. That's fantastic. Yeah, and then, but when you've done it a few times, then you can really start to streamline things. So, and maybe even use tools. So to invite guests, I discovered Calendly is so helpful. Instead of writing back and forth, I just give you a link and say there or is the time, and put in the question.
That was a great experience as a guest.
Yeah, but that doesn't make sense until you had a few guests and figure out where are the pain points.
Yeah,
because
then you don't know what to put in the form.
Okay, yeah. So, we have boundaries, set boundaries, and we have, do it step by step. And what else do we need to know?
Automation. Now, automation does not have to be the big and fancy, complex technical solutions. I've got a button here on my on my Stream Deck that I can rotate the lights behind me. I'm not going to actually do it because something's been unresponsive lately. I don't want everything to just go down. But automation is anything that you can do to get a repeatable result more easily. Okay, writing down, taking notes, that's one thing. One of the most useful tips that I got as I was starting to do video, a friend of mine, Matt Troutman over at the Genius Lounge, he sent me a copy of the disk image template that he uses for all of his video projects. And it was, he created a new disk image. I just use a zip file because it works a little bit better for my workflow. But he had laid out the Final Cut project with all of the, everything configured the way that he likes it, and a folder for text resources like the script, the audio resources, video resources, the thumbnail for it, and had everything laid out in beautiful folder structure. It was nicely organized, and then he put it onto a disk image. I just put it into a zip file, and then whenever he goes to start a new video, he opens, he just copies that, opens it up, changes the name, and he's already started on that. And he shared that with me as I was just getting started. And I thought, oh, this is brilliant, because I'd done like 10 videos at that point and everything was an absolute mess. I could never find where pieces were laying about. And this was a much more way to keep everything organized. It eliminates so much friction. Friction is not your friend. Friction just drags you back, drags you down. If you get anything you can do to get rid of the friction and spend more time creating, well, that's less time that you're wasting, just chasing down like, oh, I liked how this, I like that sound effect I used in this other video. Where was that video? Where's the sound effect for that? If you can't find those things, then either you lose the opportunity and you can't do it now, or it's just going to take you longer because you have to retrace your steps and figure out where you found the sound and go find it again. And so that was a huge, such a simple thing. And that's a form of automation. It's just, start a project template, save it off where you can just copy it.
Yeah.
And you're giving your future self a head start on every video that you produce going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Friction is not your friend. Okay, I have to write that down. So good. Yeah, and yeah, of course we have to learn all those tools. So with live, we have to learn OBS or Ecamm or whatever, and then when you get into editing, it's always once you know how it works, it looks so easy, but the first time it is everything but easy.
It's easy once you've done it.
Yeah. WD-40 against the friction. Exactly. And Pierre Kelly says, say yes to friction. Yeah. I mean, every opposite has always a little bit of truth as well. But
Sure, friction's a tool like anything else. It would be hard. It would be hard to walk around, hard to drive, if there were no friction.
Yeah. So exactly. So we have to build up all those skills. When would you say is a good time to ask for help or to take some courses, be it free courses or paid courses?
So there's two schools of thought on this. One is, ask for help, take the course, whatever. Once you know what the question is. The other school of thought is ask before you know. Ask earlier because you don't know what questions to ask. And so there's kind of two ways of approaching this, and you ask slightly different questions. When you know what the question is, you're asking, how do I? When you don't know the questions to ask, it's more of you want to ask more open-ended questions. Like find somebody who has walked this path before you, whose brain you can pick, and just tell them like, hey, you're doing this. I love what you're doing. What should I keep in mind? Sort of questions where it's not something so specific, but give them a little more freedom to share their best nuggets, their best advice with you. People are usually happy to share their experiences and their wins with other people. I've had there have been a number of times where I've invited somebody out. I've taken somebody to lunch just to discuss things and pick their brain and get to know more about them and their path, their journey. And people love talking about themselves and sharing what they have learned. If they have a willing, you're giving them a willing audience and inviting them to speak.
Yeah, people loving to talk about themselves is the thing that keeps my show going here because because I don't pay any guests, so all based on that principle.
We're happy to share what we know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think there is a balance between, there is the one extreme from people, and maybe I was that person once who constantly consume videos about how to do YouTube, hours about hours, and never actually do something with it, and then it's all just wasted. Unless you were entertained with it, and then okay.
I try to wait until I've done a little bit of my own homework, something so that I can ask an intelligent question.
Yeah.
If I don't know the exact words for something, then that's kind of around the point where I want to start asking the question. Ideally, yes, I can figure out what the terminology is. Like, oh, hey, in Final Cut Pro, what's the easiest way to do a J and L cut? But maybe I haven't even stumbled across that much of an answer, and so I have to phrase that as, hey, I've noticed in some videos, that the video will switch over before the audio switches over, or those don't always happen at the same time. How do you do that? And then hopefully you're asking in an environment, in a community where people are happy to say, oh yeah, those are J&L cuts. This is how you do it, and and you find people who are happy to teach. I have, unfortunately, and you will unfortunately meet people out there that, if you don't ask the question in just the right way, they don't want to have anything to do with you.
Okay.
Because you're obviously not thinking about this yourself. I mean, I know this. If you don't know this, you must just be dumber than I am. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
But those are not the people you need in your life. And
Exactly.
so if someone asks me, the moment I get impatient and annoyed is if they come back and ask the same thing and really didn't pay any attention and just wanted me to do the work for them. So then I get annoyed.
Yeah.
But else I'm really patient. Yeah, but the thing is, in order for you to even need to know what a J-cut is, you first should have some videos to even edit, and I think that is where a lot of the mistake happens, where people just dive into things and they didn't really start. But then once you did start, I think it's then really valuable to not make every mistake yourself and learn about some concepts and shortcuts.
Isaac Newton said, if I've seen a little bit further, it's because I've stood on the shoulders of giants.
Very good.
And there's a lot of great knowledge. There's a lot of great information out there that can help you, take shortcuts so that you're not having to reinvent the wheel, with every video. But you look out there, you look at other videos, you see what's successful, and then you just have to break it down and figure out, okay, why is that successful?
Yeah.
Why do I like watching this video? What is it about that J-cut that makes it compelling that I want to watch it?
Yeah. Yeah, that is a great tip in general. To figure out how can I improve my content is if I watch it like a viewer who doesn't know me, and then I say, would this be interesting to me, or would I go away after 10 seconds? And
when you become a content creator, it changes how you consume content.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There's something in your brain that just breaks. You can't just sit back and watch a video and be happy anymore. You're constantly like, oh, how do they do that? Oh, I could do that. Okay, yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, but it's fun.
Oh yeah, no, it absolutely is. That's why we're here. That's why we're putting ourselves through. That's why we put ourselves through all this.
Yeah. Absolutely. But in general, as a content creator, I just need general productivity wisdom, or are there more things specifically for content creators to keep in mind?
Oh, I mean, it's another piece of advice I like to share, remind people of frequently. It's nothing new, but it's something that we often lose sight of, especially when we're dealing with side hustles. And it's that productivity is a marathon, not a sprint. And you can push, you can do a lot. You can rev the engine for short periods and get a lot done in a very small amount of time, but only for short periods. And then you have to back off. You have to ease off. You have to slow down again, because you can't sprint for an entire marathon, 26.3 miles, 0.6, however long a marathon is. You can't sprint that entire way. You have to find the pace that works, and that is how you make productivity sustainable. You look at the statistics about the number of podcasts that don't make it past 10 episodes, and it's the vast majority of them because somebody gets this idea, they're excited about it, they jump in. 26.2, thank you, Adam. They jump in, and then they realize that, oh, there's work involved here. I have to keep coming up with ideas. We have to find a time that I can record with my co-host. There's all this, there's all this post-processing that has to be happen to clean up the audio and get it up there on the cloud so that people can subscribe to it. And then, oh, nobody's finding my podcast, nobody's listening to it. We just burn out. We give up because it's work, and we lose sight of why we're doing it. We're not doing it for the viewership. The viewership comes. One of the earliest videos I did has recently started to gain some traction and take off. I'd all but forgotten about it, and still it started showing up in the dashboard that, oh yeah, this video got all these views this week. I'm like, wow. But you don't get there unless you get started. and you get started, you figure out how to get one done. Okay, then let's get two done. Okay, let's do a third one. You figure out what your pacing is, what your timing is. I wanted to do one video a week out of the gate because they, capital T, they say that that's how you do it. That's the right way to do it. So okay, sure. Let me use that wisdom and put it to work. And I couldn't do it because it's just me. I'm figuring out how all these tools work, and no, I couldn't do that. I got a video out, and it was weeks before I got a second video out, and then it was weeks before I got a third video out. And then, got some out, but started to build a little bit of momentum, and like, okay, I'm starting to figure this out. And then, life happens, and you break the stride, and you fall flat on your face, and you forget how to, you get discouraged.
Absolutely.
And so, keep that, stay connected with why you're doing it, and it's because you have a message to share. You have a message that can help somebody out there. You just have to put it out there so that the people who are trying to find you and don't even know it can stumble across it when they need it most.
I love that. Yeah, exactly. That's my philosophy too. If you have something you think you need to say, there is someone out there who needs to hear it, and the rest is just a problem of allocation, so that we find each other. Absolutely. Yeah, and it's something I observe as well. There's especially newer creators, they start off pretty regularly, and then suddenly they stop. Exactly, and so that is
and you see those. I've seen a number of YouTube videos. They're talking about like, don't give up here because you're just about to hit that point.
Yeah,
that hockey stick point. I'm like, oh, okay, well now, okay, great. Now you've got FOMO kicking in. Like, well, if I just do one more, then I'll be famous.
Yeah, and there's a reason that those videos are pretty successful, because it's a nice message.
It's a FOMO.
Yeah, but there is also sometimes then comments on these videos like, just keep doing it, just keep going, and as long as you're on a path where you're improving and reevaluating and adjusting, that's a very good advice. Just keep doing it. Yeah. But if you're doing something that doesn't work and you put it in week for week, always the thing that doesn't work, then it will not suddenly miraculously work.
And sometimes the worst thing that can happen to us is to have a little bit of success. Because I got, very early on in blogging, I had a post that got picked up, and it made the rounds on Twitter, within my circles, and got a ton of views. And then my views went back down. More recently, I tried to do something. I did something very different for a short, and it took off. It got 10, 20 times more views than the others had, and like, oh, this is good. Did another one, kind of like, okay, try to apply those lessons again. It did even better. Okay, well, can I do this again? Did even better. Okay, well, can I do this a fourth time? Nope.
Yeah, and that can be really hard.
Well, all right. Well, let's do another one next week. Just you try to learn. Sometimes the lesson is very buried.
Yeah, but that can be something that really can mess with newer creators once there is some success, and that goes back down, because sometimes you say we're frustrated because we're not growing faster, but mostly we're not really frustrated. But if we have the success, we instantly take that as new baseline, and now we're so sad we don't have that anymore, and that's something.
And I think that I think that the open secret about that is that never changes. It's just as you grow and you get a bigger and bigger audience, you go through the same thing. It's just the numbers have one or two extra commas on the end.
Yeah.
But the feeling never leaves.
Yeah, and that is what you said about know your why, because if you really anchor all your the value, and a part of us will always do that. Oh yeah, that is my number. Part of us, that's our brain, that will always go for that. Right. But if you really rooted in your why I'm doing that, will surely help with up and downs in the numbers.
Yeah. And you don't know ahead of time which videos are going to do well, which ones aren't. You just do it.
Yes.
You learn. You try to make them good. But
Yeah.
you have to stay connected to why you're doing it, because that connection to why is what's going to keep you going
Yeah.
through those troughs.
Yeah. And especially if you're newer, then it is a lot of guesswork because there are just not enough data to see what works.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just have to guess and make assumptions and go from
Yeah.
there.
Oh, try something, see what works.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how do I do that?
Yeah.
Sounds great. How?
Yeah, but that's part of the fun. Try some things.
It is. You gotta like putting yourself out there for this kind of punishment in order to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, fantastic. So yeah, I need to go to your page and read some more of the older blog posts. I'm up to date on the new ones you mailed, but yeah. I think for me, really, it is to take small steps because the past me failed because I wanted to do all the things. Now we do productivity. Now we're doing it all, and yeah, that's probably the same thing as if I would say, okay, tomorrow I will run the marathon. Will not work. So
yeah, you got to build into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So there is still hope for me.
Yeah, just focus on the things that you can do something about, and then figure out why.
Now we have a behind the scenes from you.
Yeah, it's behind the scenes. Wow. Yeah. Apparently, Ecamm got tired of that camera.
Okay.
See, now you can see my messy desk secret back there.
Oh yeah, it's out there. Yeah. So what the behind the scenes scene and one camera going down is maybe it's coming back, but
there we go. Turn the camera off and on again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now you're black. Oh, now you're back again. But that's perfectly all right because the hour is up,
right.
and so couldn't have happened at any better time. Yeah, so
if you watch this on the replay, there you go. There's your proof. This is live video.
Live, absolutely. So, yeah, as you heard, Coulter makes a shorter week at least, maybe sometimes something longer, and yeah, that's fantastic. And the blog, you can find that at coulterread.com, and I will go back there and read some more because I think it's really something shouldn't sleep on because at the end of the day it's about quality of life. Yeah, absolutely.
We're not trying to be busy so that we can be busy. We're trying to be productive so that we can do things that we want to do. Make more time for what matters most.
Absolutely. I love it. Yeah, thank you for all those great tips and the conversation we had here. And thank you everyone here for watching. If you're watching in the replay, please let us know. And that's all for today. Thank you so much. Bye.
All right. Thanks, Marcus. Thanks, everyone.